You know, the Nigerian Institute of Building, symbolically the chief mourner at a time like this, if you understand what I mean, has appealed to the Lagos state authorities to strictly implement its physical planning laws just to stem the rising spate of building failures in the state. The chairman of the Lagos arm of the institute, Lucky Isemane, confessed that Lagos has excellent laws lacking adequate implementation. Please underline that. He commiserates with families of the victims. Meanwhile, the Lagos state government commissioned a 5-man panel to probe causes of the collapse and recommendations. Look, what do you think happened to previous panel reports?
Nigeria happened to them. The same way.
Oh, Nigeria happened to those reports.
Exactly. The same way Nigeria has happened to this 21-story building that came down eventually. You see, this is a system of impunity that we are running. Civil servants who have responsibilities, you know, somebody says that we need to be careful about certain groups of people, the damage they can do. A doctor may kill one patient, but an administrator can destroy the entire system.
Yeah.
Can destroy so many people, including himself. Now, from reports that we have heard, that this gentleman who owns this building that collapsed, 2 other buildings are still standing there, and even the structural engineering firm that withdrew from this 3rd building says vouches.
Withdrew?
Yes.
From this failed building?
Yes. Vouches for the 2 standing...
Integrity.
Of the 2 standing buildings, beside this one that collapsed. You know, that tells you that, and this same individual is reported to have constructed some buildings in England, in South Africa, and in America. Though I think it's also been said that 4 of the flats in America were pulled down. It came down. You know, but the point I want to make is this: he complied with rules where rules are maintained, and you can't fool around with them. You do it, they sanction you in a very, 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 very serious way. Now he came to Nigeria, and then he's able to do what he has done. And then, because I saw what looks like the permit for that building, what I saw there says 15 floors. That's what that document said. Approved and signed for the general manager by somebody who is unidentified. They just say for general manager, and there's a signature, it says for general manager. Was it the general manager himself or somebody else who signed? There is no name, just for general manager. Do you understand?
How do you factor the statement credited to the number 2 man in Lagos?
That's a very good question. Not only him, our colleague also, Dele Momodu, I wonder why he felt it was necessary for him to be adding his voice. There's already a panel set up. Let that panel do its job. Let's not preempt them and be telling them, you know, almost, why was it necessary for the deputy governor to say what he said? And why is it necessary for Dele Momodu to be saying what he's saying? That he didn't come. You're not an expert in this job. The deputy governor is also not an expert in this job. Let those people, the 6-man panel, is not 5, the 6-man panel that has been set up, let them do their jobs. There is a structural engineer there. There are 2 lawyers there. There's a real estate lawyer there. There's a president of the Nigerian Builders Association. There are a lot of people, as an architect there. There's a builder there. Who should know? Let them do that job and let's not preempt what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Are we trying to, what is it now? Are we trying to goad them to a particular point of view? Just to absorb somebody?
Let me quickly go to Jide.
But I'm sorry for the gentleman who died. My thinking is that he went to my school.
Avoidably.
He went to my school where we have very strong ethics. That's
I thought you were going to say where we have very strong buildings.
Strong ethics.
Okay.
And our principal or our proprietor is a man with muscular ethics.
A man after my heart.
So my thinking is this, that Nigeria happened to this gentleman.
Jide, shall we take that line to heart and add it to this discussion? Nigeria happened to whatever happened on Gerrard Road. And the question remains hanging. So what are we doing with reports of other failed buildings in Lagos? Or what did we do with them?
We simply do not learn from these incidents. It's clear to see that we really do not learn from these incidents. In September 2014, 116 persons died in when the synagogue church building gave way. 84 of them South Africans, 22 of them Nigerians, and 2 Togolese. The coroner's report indicated what government should do. It affirmed that despite the fact that the church claimed at the time that it was an aircraft that flew overhead that caused the building to give way, that the reason the building gave way had to do with structural and design errors. You can actually get approval to do 21 stories and comply with that approval. But if the design itself is defective, it can bring down the building.
Obviously.
If certain structures, if certain materials that were used were substandard, it can bring down a building. So, harping on the fact that yes, the builder actually got approval to do 21 stories, it's not enough. The issue is there is so much corruption within the ranks of those whose job it is to supervise this sector. At the level of the urban and regional planning, we see a lot of things that ought not to happen happening. We see people getting approval to build houses, even skyscrapers, on drainage channels, and nobody gets punished.
And under high tension
we
cables,
see a situation in which
cables
substandard materials. Yes, that's just an example. You know, when you build houses on drainage channels, you cause problems for the community. Flooding would happen, and lives and properties could be lost as a result of flooding. When you are building a 21-story structure, about 74 meters, you've got to take a good look at the materials that were used. There was a foreign investor who came to our country and said, look, I don't want to use iron rods produced in this country because some of these iron rods produced in Nigeria are decayable. Some of them, even according to the investor, have 45% less carbon. So he flirted with the idea of importing the iron rods, the reinforcements that he would use for that building. And what he had in mind was that for every 3-story structure in our country may not last more than 50 years because of the quality of some of the materials available. You can imagine that investor even thinking of importing cement. So we've got to take all of these pictures that we are seeing. Investigators should be able to look at these pictures and be able to ascertain what happened. It is impossible for a 21-story structure to give way, and then we will be saying, oh, that's the way what God wanted it. No, there will be some underlying reasons for this to happen. And we need to investigate and get to the root of this.
All right,
This kind of structure giving way is unusual.
Yeah, you talked about
punish people when we discover that they are culpable.
Yeah, Wale Jide talked about September 2014. I can talk about December 2016. Later you remember the dome of a church at Uyo came down and killed over 200 people.
We discussed it on this program.
And government said the government's official figure was 25. No problem. But between then and now, nothing has happened. And it appears nothing will happen. Wale, are we not dealing with untouchables in this country?
I also
who impugn the system at will and get away?
Yeah, the case of a collapsed building in Lagos 2016 in March. And tens of people also died. You see, wherever you have corruption, the consequences are enormous. It shows clearly that corruption is consuming the lives of so many innocent people.
Yeah, and we are not taking heed.
Yes, this building, people from Togo, artisans working there died. Youth copper, food sellers, innocent people that have nothing. Just perish. As we speak now, a lot of homes are in money mood.
I saw the rubble.
Yeah.
You saw the rubble.
And some people are still trapped there.
Yeah.
Maybe some are even alive as we speak, struggling to breathe.
I hear man can go without food and water 7 days.
Yeah.
Today is 7 days.
So it's a traumatic way to die.
Traumatic.
You know, and if you look at it, this is avoidable death.
Avoidable.
Human error. Nothing more than human error. Corruption, using non-professionals, lack of monitoring by the institutions.
They talked about it. There's nothing like God no bring anything.
Human error. He built houses in London. There was no case of collapse. South Africa, United States, little error because there was effective institutional monitoring. But when you just think, okay, people are building, you just go there, collect 100,000 naira, and then you go. You must know that there are consequences.
But nobody
and it can
will
lead to human
escape.
death.
Anybody connected to this carnage?
I hope so. I hope so.
Then you don't believe in what they call nemesis?
Of course I believe. Because if you have conscience and people are dead now because of your action, then you must know that you have to carry that burden throughout your lifetime.
Lekon, let's talk about these untouchables because we deserve what we get in this country. We can't overemphasize it.
You see, Jones, my thinking about all this is that there's something called discretion. We carried that thing too far, such that we begin to compromise standards. We begin to compromise standards as if it is the individual. We don't have rule of law. When lawyers talk about rule of law or jurisprudence or constitutional people talk about rule of law, people think it's just to slam you. No, it's agreement on what are the standards of behavior in any particular point in time, and then you adhere to it. And I should be able to predict that when I'm driving on the right lane of the road, I am driving right. And I should not expect that somebody else will be driving on my lane facing me. That's what is called rule of law.
Let's quickly join a gentleman. He's a builder, Kunle Awobodu, that's the name. He's the immediate past president of the Nigerian Institute of Building. He's joining us by Skype. He's also the past president of the Building Collapse Prevention Guild. Good evening, Brother Awobodu. How do you do? Or good afternoon, I should say.
Good evening, my friends. And the viewers. It is a bad period for those of us in the building industry of Nigeria. For some days now, I'll be on that side monitoring the rescue operation and also studying the materials used to construct the buildings. It was pathetic, especially when you see a family being put on tentacles, waiting for a body to be extracted from under the rubble. I saw it happen with the stench. They will go and examine or try to identify that body, whether that person happened to be the relation or not. You know what really occurred to me? Especially when the governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, was persuaded to stay beyond 1 hour and monitor the rescue operation on that side. It became a learning process that we are not fully prepared for that kind of emergency. When you have slabs, about 20 slabs falling on one another, what equipment should you use to remove the slabs one after the other in order to evacuate those who are trapped? It was sad for a builder
Mr. Wobodu, you just talked about a learning process, but aren't we too long in the classroom?
Yes.
We are overstaying our welcome there. Yeah.
Yes. Since 2011, we formed an organization called Building Collapse Prevention Building, starting from Lagos here. It was a grassroots movement, a coalition of all the semi-professionals in the built environment, town planner, builders.
Okay, but you know, we saw pictures, right or wrong, of stop work at the site. What happened after then? Can you tell us? Okay, signals not too comfortable there. Jide, we'll get back to you. When you are having a high-rise like this, you talk about the soil engineer, the site engineer, the pupil engineer, and all sorts of relevant engineers. And you're asking, where are they?
You see, in that report, in that coroner's report on the collapse of the synagogue building, the coroner spoke at length about the need to defeat corruption within the regulatory bodies, and the need for supervision from the beginning of the building process right up to the end. You don't just give approval for a building to be sited somewhere and then think that your job is done. The coroner also talked about the fact that the need for government to reduce the cost of even obtaining these permits, that until that is done, builders would not stop cutting corners. And how do they cut corners? They simply bribe government officials. Was it not an individual that former governor Tinubu discovered to have given approval for a high-rise building to be erected on a drainage channel? Because I interviewed him and he said, see, even the cost of removing that high-rise building would discourage anyone. But what we've got to do is to dismiss the officers who let this happen. And that was what Governor Tinubu did at that time. But I want to believe that there are still many individuals like that who will not do their job of monitoring the building process, who will simply take bribes and look away, even when procedures that ought to be respected are violated. So it's not as if we do not have the structures to ensure that a good job is done, to ensure that the best materials are used, to ensure that the right concrete mix is used in the course of building these high-rise buildings. But are those people doing their job diligently? The answer is no. And I wish we can get back to Mr. Awobodu, because as builders, they have their own frustrations. Quacks have taken over the business.
Oh, yeah.
And builders, in order to save money, will continually patronize these quacks and the bad eggs among the builders. So we have a problem on our hands. How many times are we going to have buildings give way in Lagos? More buildings give way in Lagos than any part of our country.
Would we have that to do the right thing? How many times? And Jide, I'm talking about nobody is punished. Nobody is brought to book.
That is it. That is the problem. Look, who has been punished for the collapse of that building, that Synagogue Church of All Nations building? Who has been punished? The case up till now, the case is still dragging at the courts. Yeah. We have a big problem, even with our judiciary. The whimsical nature of our judicial process ensures that evil culprits do not get punished. And when they get punished, they don't even get punished on time.
Yeah, yeah.
Since 2014, by now, examples should have been made of those individuals.
Yeah.
We only read that the Nigerian Institute of Builders has decided to deregister 2 engineers who were involved in the building of that church building.
Jide, except that
they had no approval to even erect that structure in the first place. They didn't get approval, and they went ahead.
Except, Jide, I must stop you.
That structure.
I must stop you, Jide, because Awobodu is back. So we rejoin Kunle Awobodu, immediate past president of the Nigerian Institute of Builders. Brother Awobodu, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
I hope you can
so
hear me loud.
So what next? Where do we go from here? We have talked about nobody being punished. Is the Nigerian Institute of Builders not in a position to punish or bring anybody to book?
Yeah. Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria, which is the regulatory body, is in a position to withdraw the license of any member that fails to deliver a project successfully. And that is why builders all over the country, register competent professional builders, are extremely cautious. They are cautious that if anything happens on their side, compromise or any failure, they are in trouble, serious trouble with the professional body.
Yeah, they are in trouble, but nobody is sent to jail. Nobody is taken to court.
Information from our record, we have not been able to identify a builder, a registered builder.
That does what? Okay. Well, I'm not preempting him. No registered, perhaps he was going to say no registered member is known to have erected a building that fails.
Yes, So maybe that
in their statute books, don't they have a provision for somebody facing the law?
Well, they probably should have, they should have some kind of way to deal with erring members of their institute. But I think you are even asking a bigger question that, for example, if quacks, sometimes people use what they call direct labor, to do some of these jobs. Isn't there a way for government to give approval and then to supervise, monitor and supervise at every stage?
Yeah.
When you are pegging, for example, somebody should be coming and looking at, do you have an approved architectural plan, for example? when you are doing the pegging for the foundation, you know, it's done.
Sorry,
Look at the
Lekon.
materials that we are using.
I hear Awobode is back. Kunle, I was asking to know if there's no provision in your books anywhere for anybody to face the law. And you were saying there's no record of anybody doing what?
Yes, what I was saying was
signals, and signals. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so you were saying?
Yeah, so I was saying that at every stage, from pegging to even when you are even the materials that we are using, the iron that you are using for your, by the time you are done with your foundation and then you want to lift up to the next floor, if you are doing more than one floor, somebody should come and look at the texture of the block that you are using. You know, look at the strength of the metal, the iron rods that you are using.
You know, Jide talked about metals and so on. We're saying the rubble.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not an expert, but look at it appears
somehow
for a high rise.
Yes, I'm looking at it. It doesn't. I don't think it's a serious looking thing that we got.
Look at the rubble.
You know, but I'm not a professional, so I can't really preempt. But it looks like it is not strong enough to me.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not an expert in this area. So, but more importantly is that 21-story building, even if the approval was for 24, I thought that at every stage there must be a daily monitoring of the work there, just to be sure
that the integrity is there of the building.
Yes, the materials. And then the design itself, the structural engineer, especially when February last year, the structural engineer wrote a letter and said, excuse me, we are excusing ourselves from this job. I imagine that probably a copy of that letter would have gone to the building, that arm that supervises buildings in Lagos State, you know, and then they should have come and said, wait a minute, Mr. Mustafa, who signed the letter, what did you find? What happened? And then sit down and let's see what is going on here. And then take a firm decision. But nothing like that happened.
Jide, we are back with you. We are talking about confidence building. If the populace or the citizens sees that government is doing something about failing buildings, obviously there's a way forward, because something will be seen to have been done.
Yes. We have reached a point now that we should tell ourselves that we can't continue to have this level of loss of lives as a result of buildings giving way. This is an extreme situation, and an extreme problem requires an extreme solution. Where we have discovered that officials are complicit in the collapse of these buildings, we've got to sanitize that sector and show many of these officials the door. If we do not do that and we keep them within the system, then we are not going to solve this problem. Elsewhere, by now, heads will have been rolling.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Elsewhere, we've only heard of one person suspended for the meantime. Government has got to go beyond that. And I'm saying that we are hemorrhaging too many lives as a result of building collapse in Lagos State. That shows that there is a big problem. There's a big problem in that state with respect to building collapse. When you look at cases, there are far more cases of building collapse in Lagos than any part of our country. And that's the reason that we should not simply take remedial actions. We should take strong actions to address this problem. That sector, the regulatory body has to be sanitized and the right people put in place. The people who are sabotaging the system must be kicked out of the system. Until we do that, we will not solve this problem. I want to see the judiciary also play its part. Everyone must jump in to ensure that this does not happen again. How many times have we seen this kind of thing happen in other places? A building that high simply going down. It means that something was wrong ab initio. Either with the design or with the materials used. Coming to tell us that, oh, this the man actually built houses in South Africa, did this and that, is all empty gas. This is Nigeria. We know that it is easier to cut corners in our country and save money than in other places. People know that. People know that. So everyone, even foreigners who naturally would not want to be corrupt, they come into our system and they get even more corrupt than our own people. So, I mean, we just got to solve this problem. We can't continue to have people die in this manner. And then have we even got the equipment?
Let me tell you that all of us, all three of us here, are scandalized, but, by what's on the floor. And while we are talking about punishing somebody for this kind of a crime, and people seeing that the fellow is being punished. Otherwise, we are dealing with the regime of the untouchables.
We are not just talking of punishment. What kind of punishment? If you suspend somebody and then so what? People have lost their lives. And then beyond this, there are other buildings I can predict to you that may collapse sooner than expected. Are we going to carry out integrity tests for construction for buildings construction going on now all over the country? It's all about modeling up the planning laws of Lagos, the town planning laws. People build houses to suit their own interest. When we are talking about flooding all over Lagos, it's because people don't have respect for for town planning laws. It's not just about building collapsing. A lot of buildings catch fire, just go up in flames. So electrical fault and all sort of problems. So I hope the government, apart from this building, we should not wait for another collapse before we take steps. Construction companies going on, a building that are being constructed now, there should be a form of integrity test to ensure that this kind of thing do not happen again.
Have you heard some crazy thing like when a high-rise is being erected, like one spanner go miss, meaning somebody will fall from somewhere and so on. It's preventable if you ask me. It is.
My understanding of any work site, actually haven't worked in a factory. Once you enter into a work site, that work site is supposed to be a safety zone. Safety first is the number one thing. Every decision must be taken with that at the back of your mind. Safety of everyone working in that place.
All right, Kunle Awobodu is back. Kunle, how do you close? How do we take this home? What do you want to see from here?
I just want to put this straight. To every problem, there is a solution. Since the governor, what we thought to bring into place this urban and regional laws in Lagos State, the physical planning law of 2010. We have done a lot of homework behind the scene. If we could create time to address this matter, the solution is there. When the governor is very busy managing about 22 million persons.
Kunle, what do you want to see? Say it here.
Yes. What we have to see is that this one must draw its attention to make general overhauling within the system, number one. Number two.
Kunle, except that we are speaking tongue in cheek, don't you want to see somebody punished?
That has always been the case.
Okay.
If this can be the first time, everybody all over the world is looking at that. It has not happened before. so many recommendations that were not implemented.
Thank you, Kunle.
We only hope that
We must thank you very kindly for your time. Kunle Awobudu is the immediate past president of the Nigerian Institute of Builders. He's a man for these times, and he's also the immediate past president, Building Collapse Prevention Guild.